A federal jury has acquitted former Guantanamo prisoner Ahmed Khalfan Ghailani on all but one charge in the 1998 U.S. Embassy bombings in Kenya and Tanzania. After 5 days of deliberations, the jury found Ghailani not guilty on 284 of 285 counts. Although the lone guilty verdict came on a minor conspiracy charge, he still faces a minimum sentence of 20 years in prison and a maximum of life. Ghailani was the first former Guantanamo prisoner tried in a U.S. civilian court. Prosecutors had described him as a mass murderer with, quote, the blood of hundreds on his hands. But the defense argued Ghailani was a pawn unwittingly exploited by al-Qaeda. Outside the courtroom, Ghailani's attorney, Peter Quijano, hailed the verdict.
This verdict is a reaffirmation that this nation's judicial system is the greatest ever devised. It is truly a system of laws and not men. Where in the shadow of the World Trade Center, this jury acquitted Ahmed Khalfan Ghailani of 284 out of 285 counts. At the start of this trial, we believed that Ahmed was truly innocent of all these charges. Please understand that we still truly believe he is innocent of all these charges.
Ghailani was captured in Pakistan in 2004, taken to a secret overseas CIA jail, then moved to Guantanamo in 2006. At the start of the trial, the presiding federal judge barred the government from calling in their star witness, ruling that information about the witness had been revealed by Ghailani while he was being tortured in a secret CIA prison. His trial had been seen as a potential test of the Obama administration's stated plans to try other Guantanamo prisoners in U.S. courtrooms. Newly disclosed figures show the nation's largest health insurance corporations funneled over $86.2 million to the U.S. Chamber of Commerce to oppose health care reform last year. Companies including United Health and Cigna provided the money through their main lobbying group, America's Health Insurance Plans, or AHIP. The spending exceeded the group's entire budget from the year before and accounted for 40% of the budget of the Chamber's 2009 budget. The money was used to fund ads, polling, and public events to stir opposition to the health care overhaul. An anonymous source confirmed to Bloomberg News that the money came from insurers because federal tax laws don't require identification of donors. In a statement, the Center for Responsive Politics said, quote, perhaps this key debate would have progressed differently if the true source of the chamber's spending had been known at the time. A new study shows members of Congress saw a boost in personal wealth as the U.S. economy suffered the worst of the economic recession. According to the Center for Responsive Politics, lawmakers' personal wealth increased an average 16% between 2008 and 2009. The number of millionaires rose to 261, nearly half the total members of Congress. The median wealth of a House member topped $765,000, while the average for a senator is over $2.3 million. Democrats have announced they'll force a vote on repealing the U.S. military's ban on openly gay and lesbian service members before the next Congress begins in January. Senate Majority Leader Harry Reid says he'll bring a military spending bill with the Don't Ask, Don't Tell repeal attached to the Senate floor sometime next month. The House voted to repeal the ban earlier this year. Republican Senator Lisa Murkowski of Alaska has claimed victory over Tea Party-backed opponent Joe Miller after more than 2 weeks of vote counting. Murkowski ran as a write-in candidate after Miller won the Republican primary in August. Murkowski is said to have a 10,000-vote lead, but Miller is still refusing to concede the race. The Obama administration's intensifying a push to expand government wiretapping of online communications, including emails, Facebook postings, and Internet phone calls. The administration wants Congress to require immediate compliance with wiretap orders seeking government monitoring of encrypted messages sent over the Internet. The New York Times reports FBI Director Robert Mueller met with top executives at several major Silicon Valley firms, including Google and Facebook, earlier this week. The White House proposals include a requirement that any services based overseas be routed communications through a U.S. server where they could be wiretapped. President Obama is heading to Portugal for a NATO summit beginning Friday. The Obama administration hopes to drum up support for its military strategy in Afghanistan and a new plan to delay a non-binding withdrawal deadline to at least 2014. Ahead of the summit, the city of Lisbon is undergoing the largest ever security crackdown in Portugal's history. Peace activists plan to hold several rallies, culminating in an anti-war march Saturday. Protest organizer Pedro Lima criticized Portugal's involvement in the Afghan occupation.
We wanted to show the people of Lisbon that Portugal is actually in a war, that we were not even invaded by that country, that is Afghanistan, and that we are sponsoring that war. Like people, some money is taking out from social and education to be invested in war armaments.
Sweden's top prosecutor has ordered the arrest of WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange on charges of rape and sexual molestation. The move follows an investigation that was reopened in September after initially being dropped. It also comes less than a month after WikiLeaks released a trove of classified U.S. military documents disclosing new evidence of torture and civilian deaths in the Iraq War. Julian Assange has denied the allegations and said he's the target of a smear campaign. A Stockholm court is set to hold a hearing on whether to approve the order for his arrest. The Federal Deposit Insurance Corporation has launched a probe of around 50 former banking executives whose firms collapsed during the financial crisis. More than 300 banks and credit firms have failed since 2008, but only a handful of financial executives have faced charges. At least 13 people have been arrested in San Francisco at a protest against another tuition hike at University of California schools. On Wednesday, protesters gathered outside a meeting where UC regents are considering a proposal to raise average tuition 8% or over $800. The regents approved a 32% tuition hike 1 year ago. One police officer pulled a gun on the protesters while others used pepper spray to disperse the crowd. The regents are set to vote on the tuition hike today. Back in Washington, House Democrats have elected House Speaker Nancy Pelosi as Minority Leader in the next Congress. Pelosi won by a vote of 150 to 43 after facing calls to step aside in the wake of the Democrats' midterm losses. Congressmember James Clyburn of South Carolina will fill a new position of Assistant Leader under Minority Whip Steny Hoyer of Maryland. Republican senators have blocked a measure to fight wage discrimination against female workers. The Paycheck Fairness Act would increase enforcement of laws requiring equal pay for men and women. But on Wednesday, all Republican senators voted to prevent the bill from reaching the Senate floor. Former Republican vice presidential candidate Sarah Palin has given new indications she plans to challenge President Obama in 2012. In an interview with ABC News, Palin said she believes she can defeat Obama in a presidential election.
I'm looking at the lay of the land now and trying to figure that out, if it's a good thing for the country, for the discourse, for my family, if it's a good thing.
If you ran for president, could you beat Barack Obama?
I believe so.
Maple. And the singer, songwriter, poet, artist, and punk rock legend Patti Smith has won the National Book Award in the nonfiction category for her memoir, Just Kids. The book tells the story of Smith's coming of age in New York and her lifelong friendship and creative collaboration with the renowned photographer Robert Mapplethorpe. Patti Smith discussed her time with Mapplethorpe in an interview on Democracy Now! Earlier this year.
We were the same age, both wanted to be artists, both had nothing, and both sort of on the fringe of things. You know, both of us were more the late bloomer type, and you know, despite the fact that Robert was you know, had a very engaging face, he was still sort of a wallflower, a person on the fringe, even in an art school. So we gravitated toward each other and supported each other and evolved together and went through all kinds of things, you know, from, you know, Robert discovering or coming to terms with his evolving sexual identity to becoming a photographer, me evolving from poetry into rock and roll, and we evolved together.
And those are some of the headlines. This is Democracy Now!, democracynow.org, The War and Peace Report. I'm Amy Goodman with Juan Gonzalez.
And welcome to all of our listeners and viewers around the country and around the world.